It's time for another episode of the JoshCast. I've just learned that if I play my car radio while recording this, it'll be in the background naturally. But the question is, are there copyright concerns if I post this online? But I don't think so, because I'm not making any money off of this podcast. I can prove that. I'll be able to prove that in court. How much of this podcast can I do with this music in the background? And how does that affect what I talk about? She swept across the land with the love and passion of 1,000 swallows. Alright, I can't do that for too long. But it's a good way to start. There's some energy now. Nose is running. Allergies, perhaps? The beginning of the end? Death? Is death knocking? Feeling better today. Don't worry. It won't last long. Or maybe it will, if I will it to be so. Driving by a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Nope, it's a Ford. Not even close to a Jeep Grand Cherokee. The Jeep Grand Cherokee. I think at one point it was just the Jeep Cherokee, and then they came out with the Grand Cherokee. And what made it grand? It was slightly more round, as I recall. If my recollection of 90s cars doesn't fail me. Also just drove by basically a tent city, reminding me that we are living in the fall of the Roman Empire, basically. Because I'm reading The Prelude to Foundation by Isaac Asimov, the first of the Foundation series. This is notable science fiction, and I believe it is considered hard science fiction. I wanted to sit down and read some hard science fiction. And the big difference between hard science fiction and... Well, actually, what I read was that hard science fiction is more to do with the hard sciences, mathematics, physics, whereas soft science fiction is more to do with the social sciences. At any rate, the difference, I would say, between hard science fiction and perhaps the kind of science fiction you would see today on the Sci-Fi Channel or in movies, is that instead of, in a modern science fiction movie, having an action sequence, a car chase, a space fight, a duel, instead of an action sequence, you have two characters having a conversation for approximately an hour. That's the big difference. It's what happens in hard science fiction. If you make a hard science fiction version, for lack of a better example, of Star Wars, which I know technically is science fantasy, but let's hard sci-fi Star Wars. In the scene where Darth Vader meets Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Death Star, and Darth Vader says, "Now I am the master," and then they start fighting. Instead of whipping out the lightsabers, Darth Vader would say, "And now I am the master, because my vision of how to run the galaxy fits more in line with Plato's Republic." And Obi-Wan would say, "Your understanding of Plato's Republic is one-sided at best!" And the two of them would proceed to have a Socratic dialogue. And the stormtroopers would gather, and they'd be constantly checking in to be swayed. All right, are the stormtroopers siding with Obi-Wan's perspective? That Plato's Republic, though it does seem to be advocating for a wise and sage dictator, essentially, that there are limitations to to what that can achieve, and that the Plato's Republic is really only the beginning of the larger philosophical discussion of how the human race should evolve. And by that token, it wouldn't be a Death Star if this was hard science fiction. It'd be a discussion star. There'd be a lot of meeting rooms, a lot of tables. Send the discussion star. My God, it's the discussion star. That's no moon. That's a discussion star. It's said they have 5 million philosophers on board, just waiting to pick apart my arguments. These are the plans to the discussion star. So, you're going to destroy the discussion star? Of course not. We don't destroy things. Our plan is to convince everyone on the discussion star to turn to the discussion star around. We're going to discuss our way out of the discussion star. Ba-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Ba-dun, ba-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-dum. And Anthony Daniels as C-3PO. That's what hard science fiction would be, basically. Basically! If you break it down, that is what you get. Trying to eat healthier today. My goal is to eat healthier today. Processed foods. Can't eat the processed foods. It's got to be all natural. All natural foods. Just salads, fruit, and air, I guess. That's it. That's all I'm going to eat today. No cookies. None of the penny candies. None of that kind of stuff. Though, I was reading about marshmallows because I had a marshmallow brownie the night before last, which was divine. And, of course, I suffered the consequences the next day. But nevertheless, I was reading about the history of the marshmallow. So modern marshmallow, it's made with basically sugar, gelatin, or some other kind of protein that binds everything together, and air. But back in the olden days, actually during the period of ancient Egypt, marshmallow was made out of an actual marshmallow plant. That's what it was called. And they basically ground up the stalk of the plant, put it in honey, and it was considered medicinal. Back in the day. So they had marshmallows in Egypt. And that's something I feel has never been represented in any of the Ten Commandments stories I've ever heard. Let my people go. I refuse, Moses. Would you like a marshmallow? Yes, I would. Yes, I would like one. Thank you. But still, let my people go. Moses, you must take your people to the promised land. Could we also bring some marshmallows? No! You may not bring the marshmallows with you. That seems a bit harsh. I mean, we were just, slaves for... Look, I'm God. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just asking if... Can you bend a little bit on the marshmallow? There will be no marshmallows in the promised land. It will be a land flowing with milk and honey. So you're saying there's going to be cake if there's milk and honey. Yes, there will be cake at the promised land. Now go and save your people. Can I just ask what you have against marshmallows? I said go and save your people! All right, fine. I'm going to save my people. Moses will follow you into the promised land. We've been wandering in the desert for 40 years. Moses, why? Why did God refuse Marshmellows, why? I don't know. We must trust in the will of God. Aaron, we must trust in the will of God. Moses, I beg of you, use your staff. Strike the rock. Turn the rock into a marshmallow, Moses. I beg you. It's not what God wants. Moses, I beg you. We beg you, Moses. Look at us. We've been wandering in the desert for 40 years. We need something, Moses. If not a marshmallow, at least some other kind of penny candy. All right, fine, I'll do it. And thus did Moses turn the rock into a marshmallow. And thus was God angry, and said unto Moses, You may see the promised land, but you may never enter it. And Moses said, all this over a marshmallow. And God said, don't get me started, okay? Do not get me started. I warned you. And Moses said unto God, you're still not going to tell me what the deal... I don't want to go into it, all right? I don't want to go into it. There was a problem. A lot of people got hurt involving the marshmallows. Not literally, okay? But they, it was part of the... They were involved. All right, God. It was very difficult to make marshmallows until a new process of making them, which I forget the name of the process, but now they're basically made on, in an industrial level, and they're basically, I think they are essentially printed in a way, or they're made. You make giant ropes of them, and then you cut them into equal pieces. Hence, why the marshmallow looks like the round cylindrical shape that it looks. So somewhere out there is a rope of marshmallow. And my question is, why don't I would buy the rope if they sold the rope. That sounds delicious. And then I can hang myself with it. A rope of marshmallow. What could be better than that? Yes, I'll take the marshmallow rope, please. I know what I'm buying. I like 27 yards of the marshmallow rope, please. You know what? Let's make it 30. Why not? It's a holiday. We're celebrating Passover. Don't tell God. I understand they're Reform Jews, yes. What's the difference between a Reform Jew and an Orthodox? Oh, the Reform Jews, they're all over the marshmallows. I see. I should say that this podcast, by the way, do not take this to be law when it comes to anything related to Judaism. I have no idea what God's actual feeling on marshmallows is. Don't know if it was mentioned in the Bible. I don't even know why I think God would have a problem with marshmallows. He probably wouldn't. He'd probably say, you know what? Take a few marshmallows. It's going to be a long trip. But yes, working on eating healthier. I was pretty healthy last night. I had some salmon. And I think it was quinoa. Quinoa. Pretty good. It was vegetarian and vegan. This is what I've noticed on menus. It'll say vegetarian and vegan. They'll have the little V and then the little VG, or VEG. And my question is, if it's vegan, doesn't that automatically imply that it's vegetarian? That's an excellent... I feel like people have talked about this before. I should perhaps look that up. Because Because all vegetarian is no meat. I think. And then vegan is really, seriously, no meat, no eggs, seriously no meat. So how could something be vegan but not vegetarian? That's what I'd like to know. America! I probably should be vegan. It's probably the best thing to do. The healthiest thing to do is to be vegan. Sometimes I can't get on board with vegan substitutes for things. It just feels, a vegan burger. They try to make it, and I know I've talked about this in past podcasts. I'm talking about it again. They try to make it taste like an actual burger. You can't do that. No matter how hard they try. I've had vegan burgers that are good. I'm not saying they're bad, per se. It's just a constant reminder that I'm not eating meat when I eat a vegan burger. I can feel my brain saying, it's vegan, it's not meat, not red meat, not red meat, it is not red meat, it is not red meat, it is not red meat, with every bite, not red meat. Hey, look at that, it's more not red meat. Loving that, not at all red meat. Why do I get the feeling that back in the day, before we became so industrialized that we were polluting everything, and before our method of processing food became so unhealthy, that all of this stuff that we're not allowed to eat now was fine? That red meat, when cultivated on a farm and not on an industrial farm, was much healthier than it is now. That's my theory. So the problem is not red meat. The problem is modern, processed, non-organic red meat. Red meat is not the problem. The human race is the problem. Should that be pointed out when teaching people about health? Because all I hear is, well, red meat is bad for you. But if that's the case, does that mean if I eat organic red meat? But I don't even, that's the thing. I don't even know if something is organic. It says it's organic on the package, but who knows what that means anymore? The only way to know 100% would be to raise the animal myself and then kill it myself. Which sounds horrible and depressing, to do that to an animal. So now I feel guilty. Great. All roads lead to guilt on this podcast. All roads lead to guilt. Another bicyclists. Man, I'm also starting to see those scooters. I want to give that scooter a try. I'm just terrified I'm going to kill myself on it. So that means I need to buy a helmet. A bike helmet. I'm going to buy a bike. I will not do it unless I buy a bike helmet, which I'd like to do. And my thinking is, because I just remember always getting flack, not always getting flack, but getting flack from the kids in the neighborhood about the bike helmet. A bike helmet is uncool. That's why I want to find the most uncool bike helmet I can possibly find. I want to lean into the uncoolness of the bike helmet. The question is, what would that be? I want to get a Star Trek Deep Space Nine bike helmet. I know it's out there. Although there's this new documentary about Deep Space Nine that's coming out that's getting a lot of buzz. Deep Space Nine's encountering a renaissance, if you will. So I might soon be the cool bike helmet. Well, goodbye.